Hello, good morning, everyone, or good afternoon shortly. We're going to start things pretty much right at noon, so we'll start in a minute or two. This is, of course, going to be a presentation of the session that I delivered at the 2018 Saskatchewan Parks and Recreation Conference in Maple Creek on October 19th earlier this year, just almost a month ago now. So the purpose of this webinar is to give you another opportunity to get this information from me if you didn't attend the conference, or maybe you did attend the conference but you forgot what I said, and maybe you saw the slides but you wanted some more context. So we're going to get things going pretty shortly. We'll wait for a few more people to join in, and then we will get started. If you're familiar with SPRA, you might recognize my voice. My name is Christian Bates-Hardy, and I'm a communications consultant with Saskatchewan Parks and Recreation Association. I'm joined in this webinar by Ryan Monks, who's providing technical support, also from the Communications Information and Research Division. He's going to give me your questions at the end of the presentation so that we can get some of your questions answered, hopefully with a little bit of time left over. I'm thinking this webinar will probably last about 40-45 minutes, so that's about how long we're going to take, and then we'll have a few minutes for questions, but I'd like things to be over by 1 o'clock so you can all get back to work. And I think we'll just give people maybe another minute, but yeah, by 12:03, I think we'd like to get started here. Welcome everyone who is in the chat right now. I see our field consultant from Larange, Daniel Longman's in here. Hey, Daniel. This slide presentation, I'll let everyone know who's in here, is currently available on our website under the session resources for the 2018 SPRA conference in Maple Creek. And I think we're going to get started now with this presentation. So if my slide deck will agree with me. All right, welcome to Cultivating and Coordinating Parks and Recreation Opportunities on Social Media. My name is Christian Bates-Hardy, and I'm a communications consultant with the Saskatchewan Parks and Recreation Association. This is a presentation of the session I gave at the 2018 SPRA conference in Maple Creek and Cypress Hills about a month ago in October. So if you weren't able to attend the conference, or if you did attend the conference, this will be a recording and a live session documenting that presentation. So this is your opportunity to have more access to that information that I gave at the SPRA conference. If you attended the conference, you've already got this information once before. There probably won't be a lot that will be new to you, but if you weren't there, then this should all be new, hopefully. So let's get started. My 3 goals for this session are to share with you how to grow a following on social media, coordinate your social activities, and harvest the benefits of social media using best practices and current trends. And that is me in Orlando this summer, and boy, do I wish I was there now. In the middle of winter, or rather just the beginning. So let's talk about how to start growing your following on social media. What you want to start off with is a consistent brand identity that people can identify you with across all your social media profiles. It's really important to consider what your social profiles say about your brand. With SPRA, we use the same profile photo on every one of our social profiles, and it's always this particular image that you're seeing right here, because it incorporates our logo. It uses the youthful, upbeat, vibrant, active aesthetic that we try to get. Also, this is a little bit of inside information, but when we look at our social media metrics, we find that our primary audience consists of women aged 25 to 45, with particularly women aged 35 in Saskatchewan being our main number one audience. So we kind of want our image to reflect that as well as our brand. I recommend using the same profile photo on all your platforms so that you're instantly recognizable to your audiences, and also finding creative ways to incorporate your logo into your profile and other brand designs that you use. Try to put a person in your profile photo along with your logo. It really helps to humanize your brand and make you seem more approachable. It's also really important right off the start when you're growing your following to set the right tone and make sure that you're using the right voice for your audience. Think about what your social voice sounds like. What does your written voice sound like? It's really, really important to establish that tone right off the bat and be consistent so that your audience knows what to expect from you. I recommend being yourself. I mean, unless your personal voice is not the voice that your organization wants to go with. But I think it's important to personalize and humanize your communications, especially when you're community focused. But we can't all be as hilarious as the Wendy's Twitter account. So make sure that you're, representing yourself and your organization in the way that you want to be seen. Most people that are using social media in a nonprofit setting are also going to be doing all the designing for their social media profiles. So I really recommend you design things yourself, learn how to get some basic design skills, and find ways to really stand out from the crowd. Be the red gummy bear in the sea of crystal bland beige gummy bears, or whatever color that is supposed to be. White gummy bears, I guess. I've just listed a few graphic design tools that are free here in this list. My favorite one is Canva, and I'm happy to announce that actually since I attended the SPRA conference, Canva has made a major update. Canva 2.0 is here. Canva is still free, but there is also now a Canva for Work version that is a paid offering, which gives you even more great, easy-to-use design tools at your disposal. But Canva is a very useful tool to design social media graphics with, and I recommend you learn how to use it. Now, once you started creating some profiles and you've got your brand elements designed, now you want to start reaching out to the people that you know, looking for your existing contacts, any colleagues, peers, program participants, people that subscribe to your newsletter, anyone in your community that you think might be interested in following you. Just directly reach out to them and follow people who are in your community, people who fit the profile of your audience, the kind of people you're trying to get to follow you. When people like your content on Facebook, you can actually click on the list of the people that liked your post and then invite them to like your page if they don't already. That is a really good thing to do. It's a tip that I recommend you do. Now, I say follow back on Twitter and Instagram, but it's important to know who you're following back. Following back is a best practice, but only if those people are going to add value. And, there are a lot of accounts out there on Twitter and Instagram that are not worth following, either because they're spam accounts or maybe they're not from your country or even your part of the world. So just, before you automatically follow back, just check their profiles and make sure that they're going to add value to your feed, because as soon as you follow them, you're going to start getting their content in your feed unless you mute them. And then the last way I would recommend just getting started to reach out is share your accounts everywhere that you possibly can. Mention your social accounts on your print products, on your website, your newsletter, on your business cards. This is all pretty standard, basic advice, I know, but you'd be surprised how many people don't put these icons everywhere possible. Did I skip one there? Nope. Okay. Using real photos is so important, especially for our sector. It's really, really crucial to use real photos of real people in your community, real recreation professionals, real volunteers, people who are making a difference, because your users are way more likely to engage with your content if they see folks that they recognize. I recommend taking a photo release form if you don't already have one. SPRA has one on our website. Produce one for yourself and change the wording to however you want it to be. But take that photo release form to all your events, get people to sign it, and start building an image bank full of photos that you can use so that you can produce content for social media that's relevant to your audiences, that reflects your community and reflects the people in it. Stock photos, we all have to use stock photos from time to time in our advertising and in our marketing, but photos just have way more impact when they're real or when they look real. If you have to use stock photos, I say use the ones that look like they could be a real person. And use your social accounts to share the impact of parks and recreation in your community. Share success stories about the impact of recreation in your community, even if you weren't directly involved. If something's happening in your community or district, share that success and add your own take on it. Showcase community engagement and impact. Show off the people that they're making a difference. It's really important that you add value to your followers who follow you on social media, by which I mean make them care about you, because nobody signed up for Facebook to follow Parks and Rec organizations on Facebook. That's probably, if you're on Facebook today, most people are on Facebook. It's the 23rd of November, so of course it's Black Friday. People are there to find deals. They're reading news stories about Black Friday. They're not there to find out what's going on in recreation. So if you're going to get their attention, you need to add some value. And one of the ways I would recommend you do that is by thinking about what kind of original content you can create, something that they haven't seen before. And again, it goes back to sharing that success and showcasing your community engagement and involvement. Another thing that I think is really critical to building your following is finding your champions, giving your staff or your volunteers a platform for their voice, engaging the people that are already involved in your community, listening to what they have to say, and then encouraging them to either share their experiences on social media or direct people to your social profiles, or using them to generate content for your profiles, either video or taking photos to share with you. It's really, really important that you find your champions. And these folks in the photo here, of course, are our field consultants. They're in our regional offices throughout the province, and they're the champions for our organization and for Parks and Recreation in Saskatchewan throughout the province. And each of these people has taken photos or written tweets. They're engaging with us on social media, or they're telling people to check us out. And I think that's what you need to do in your community as well, is find your champions. And also, those people that are engaging with you over time, you'll find that there'll be a couple users that will send you a lot of comments. They'll like your posts a lot. Make sure you're staying connected with them, engaging with them, commenting back, starting dialogues, because if people don't get positive feedback when they engage with you, they're going to stop engaging with you. So that's some basic tips on how to start growing your following. And now we're going to talk about some current social media trends and how they can affect your communications. And I know this is 2018 trends, but a lot of these trends will apply to at least the first quarter of next year, and probably the first half of next year. All this information is based off of a fairly recent report that Untitled Research released in, I think, September or August of this year on social media habits in Saskatchewan. And you can purchase that report on Untitled website for about $200, but I'm going to cover some of the key points here. So Untitled looked at what people in Saskatchewan want from social media, and they found that here are some of the major reasons. And Unsurprisingly, 81% of people in Saskatchewan want to stay connected with friends and family on social media. That's why they use it. And then 50% or 51, sorry, use it to stay in the know about news, local and international news. What I think is an important takeaway for the rec sector is that 31% of people are looking for entertainment and events in their community, and 26% are looking to coordinate parties and shared activities. And that's important for us because we are the sector putting on events in communities. We're the people offering community events and entertainment or volunteer activities. So there's a large amount of people on social media that are looking to engage with that kind of content. What's also important to understand is that while some people are looking to use social media to learn about brands and businesses, that they occupy less than 20% of total social media users. So it's more important to keep the focus on what you're doing rather than who you are. Like, here I am, look at me. That's going to get you ignored. What can you do for me? What are you doing in my community? That's what people want to know. So here are the top 5 social networks in the province. Facebook, of course, at the top with 89%. YouTube, 52% of users in the province are on YouTube. Instagram is probably the big success story of the year, rising up to 34% in the top 3 spot. Pinterest hanging around in 4th place. Pinterest is actually slowly continuing to grow each and every year. I don't think it has a chance of overtaking Instagram, but it's interesting how it has overtaken other networks like Twitter. And Snapchat, the 5th most popular network in the province, at 26%. Also, something to note is that out of all the people in the province, roughly 90% of all people in the province are using at least one form of social media. So 9 in 10 people in Saskatchewan use social media, and 89% of that group uses Facebook. It's really, really crucial to keep in mind because that's consistent across all demographics, from teenagers to older adults. Everyone will actually be a teenager as much anyways, but definitely older adults, baby boomers, Generation Xers, millennials, and sort of Generation Y, those 18 to 25-year-olds now, they're all still using Facebook. But teenagers and young adults are migrating to more visual networks like Snapchat and Instagram and YouTube. And these users, these younger folks, are going to potentially cause you to rethink your social media strategy, particularly if your work really involves young people. So it's important to know who your audience is and what network they're using, because as you can see, teenagers vastly prefer Snapchat over other networks. And there are probably a variety of reasons for that, but if you can come up with creative ways to incorporate Snapchat into your marketing, you can reach those teens. We really don't know at this point if those teenagers are eventually going to start using Facebook more. It looks like young adults are still mostly using Facebook, but they're also fueling that rise in Snapchat and Instagram and YouTube as sort of preferred social networks. So Facebook, in terms of trends, it's had a rough year between data breaches and election scandals. There's a lot going on with Facebook, but it's still the #1 social network in the world. And it's still the most popular network with millennials, with Generation Xers, and with older adults. 83% of people in Saskatchewan used Facebook every single day in 2017, and most people used it more than once a day. The interesting thing is that Facebook is growing still throughout the world, but in Saskatchewan, it's not really growing anymore. It's sort of peaked. It's super saturated, but it is changing. There have been a lot of changes to Facebook. And here are a few recent updates that you should know about. Starting with the Business Manager. The Business Manager is essentially a new environment that Facebook created for you to work on your page in. It used to be that like your Facebook page was just kept within Pages, but now Facebook wants you to do everything within Facebook's like business or Facebook for Business environment. And the reason they want you to do this is because within Business Manager, you can manage your events, you can manage your advertising, everything for your business is already kind of there laid out. And the other reason is because of this other change, which is Facebook Pixel. And Pixel is essentially Google Analytics, but for Facebook. It's a bit of code that you or your web developer can install on your website that creates a connection between your website and your Facebook page so that your website is sharing data with Facebook. And this can do a lot of really powerful things for your analytics. It can help you create customized audiences on your Facebook events and advertising based on who is going to your website. It can also allow you to better track conversions, so you can see if somebody goes from a Facebook event to your website to register for an event and then successfully registers. So there's a lot of really in-depth analytics that Facebook Pixel can provide to you. So I definitely recommend that if you're already using Facebook and you're measuring, get your web developer or install Pixel yourself onto your website so you can start getting that data. Some other things that Facebook did this year is offer customer chat. So now you can also install code into your website so that a Facebook chat window pops up on your website as soon as somebody visits it. So creating more opportunities for instant customer service. Somebody can ask a question like, I'm looking for information about grants and funding. Do you have anything to offer for me? And then that question will go into your Facebook inbox so you can respond immediately to that customer and help them with whatever their issue is. So if you're willing to open that door to 24/7 customer service, then installing Facebook's customer chat window on your website is definitely something you want to look into. Something that is a little far-flung for probably most of us, but artificially intelligent messenger chatbots are now a thing. You can set up an AI chatbot using Facebook to use artificial intelligence to market your Facebook page or your events or your advertisements to potential users. So that's something that's probably out of most people's skill level because you need to know how to script an AI chatbot. But within a few years, I think we'll see this sort of technology automated and at the point where anybody just about could set them up. The most important Facebook change that you need to know about beyond the Business Manager is this shift on Facebook towards meaningful engagement. About a year ago, Facebook implemented a major change to its newsfeed algorithm that determines how you see information to focus on interactions between people. Did this because of this perception that Facebook was becoming strictly an advertising platform, which it is, but people were noticing that I'm not seeing comments from my friends and family. I'm not seeing, conversations between people. All I'm seeing are advertisements. So now the Facebook algorithm vastly prefers interactions between people over just sending information out. So what that means for you and your page is that you want to try and create engagement with your potential followers. You want to start topics for discussion. You want to share things that people are going to want to comment on and that you're going to comment back. Creating opportunities for engagement will make sure that your post gets seen more. Whereas if you're just sharing information for its own sake, if you're just making posts that nobody is interested in, that aren't engaging people, that they don't respond to, or that Facebook, even worse, recognizes as information spam or link spam, then your posts are not going to get seen. So I just want to talk a little bit about YouTube because it is the second most popular social network in Saskatchewan. If you don't know who this person is, this is JP Sears, who is a YouTube comedian with the channel Awaken with JP. He kind of pokes fun at the wellness industry. But I think it's really important to understand that YouTube is being used 40% or sorry, 40% of people use YouTube once a day in Saskatchewan. So it's extremely popular across a wide demographic. And YouTube advertising is definitely becoming more and more of a thing. And there are many video creation tools like Animoto that you can start using to create short video advertisements. And like with Facebook, you can target ads for your community. So if you're in a larger center like a city, you can create an advertisement for your Parks and Rec department or your nonprofit organization, whoever you're with, and people in your local market can see your advertisement on YouTube for just $10 a day, using any number of different ad placements. And just in terms of like creating videos, I think it's important for us to think about ways that we can create video content for recreation and parks, and I'll touch on that a little bit later. Instagram, some recent Instagram trends. Automation is just a new thing with Instagram, and it's still kind of in its infancy. Instagram really prefers you to share things using the app itself, but there are a few tools that you can use to schedule posts in advance, like Sprout Social now has Instagram automation. Shopping on Instagram has really taken off in 2018. This is something that is interesting. Now you can put a link on your Insta picture, and when people click on the link, it can take you to your product page, and then they can just complete that shopping transaction right then and there. Where that possibly could have some impact for us is we could share, say, a photo about an upcoming event, and then people could click on that photo and help them register for that event. Or if you're, say, in the fitness industry, this could have a much more direct impact where if you're trying to sell equipment, I suppose that also would have implications for recreation vendors as well. Instagram advertising has really become a bigger thing in 2018. My recommendation is to grow as much organic reach as you can, because there are already so many Instagram advertisers that it's becoming increasingly a crowded network. And I suspect that in 2019, we're going to see some algorithm changes, kind of like what happened to Facebook at the start of 2018, where, again, Instagram is probably going to put more emphasis on engagement rather than advertising, because people really don't like to see advertising on Instagram. There's a lot of it, but if you're going to do it, you have to be clever and trick people into thinking they're not looking at an advertisement, because that's, if you're on Instagram, you probably know what I'm talking about. You're probably not on Instagram to look at ads. You want to see people's cool photos and videos and stories. I just want to talk very briefly about these two networks in particular, because according to Insightrix's report, I think about 10% of people in Saskatchewan left Twitter in the last year. And I read another report recently that suggested that 20% of all active Twitter accounts in Saskatchewan have actually been abandoned by their users. I think a lot of that has to do with Twitter's lack of response to addressing issues of abuse and harassment on the platform, and just the generally negative and toxic social environment that Twitter has allowed to grow on its network. It's still the best way to share and receive news 24 hours a day, and it's a great place to connect with journalists and reporters and bloggers and podcasters in your community, but Twitter really needs to address these systemic issues going forward. And LinkedIn, which has been around for a while, really hasn't taken off. I think Microsoft recently purchased LinkedIn. Ryan is nodding, yes, that's correct. But LinkedIn has become really more of a job search site than a social network. And I'm sure that Microsoft is keen on changing that, but I don't see that it's going to happen anytime soon. So these networks, I think, should not really be a part of your strategy unless you're already on Twitter and you have a large following. And so now we're going to spend a few minutes talking about some best practices to help you reach your potential on social media. I really think it's important to plan ahead using a content calendar or a social dashboard. If you're just getting started, Hootsuite is probably your best bet. It's the most popular social dashboard out there. You can start using it for free. And if you go to the slide deck on, again, the conference page of our website under session resources, and you click on that link for free templates, Hootsuite has a bunch of free templates to get you started, including a free content calendar that you can use to help plan your social media posts throughout the month, as well as a free social media strategy template to get you thinking about your strategy if you don't have one written down. Sprout Social is a great social media dashboard that I would recommend, but only if you have the budget to support it. So Hootsuite would be my number one recommendation. Now, if you do use Twitter and you use it a lot and you wish that you had a better way to schedule posts or to see what was happening across different accounts or following different hashtags, then I recommend TweetDeck, which is another free social dashboard that you can use for Twitter. It's really important to post when your audience is engaged and on the networks that they're using. So my recommendation is, when you're thinking about where should I post and when, go where your audience is. That's the kind of the golden rule of communications, is to go where your audience is and post when they're most engaged. Now, you might have to do some experimentation. In fact, you will have to play around with this to find out when your audience is going to be most engaged. But all the major social networks have some kind of analytics baked into them, so you can measure your progress and measure their engagement and find out, when your audience is paying attention to your content, and then measure and adjust your schedule as you need to. What I don't recommend doing is just posting whenever and not doing it consistently, so that you can't actually measure and track it over time. It's really important that all of your social content now must be designed for mobile. So when you're using Canva, you got to make sure that you're designing stuff for Twitter and Instagram and Facebook that looks good on a smartphone, because so much social traffic, not just in Saskatchewan, but from around the world, comes from mobile devices. When I say your content must be responsive, that means it must be designed in a way that it can be viewed on any number of screens. So if somebody's viewing it on a small screen, it looks just as good as when somebody's viewing it on a large screen, whether that's a desktop or a mobile phone. And your content should be device agnostic. It should work with any kind of device. So your post should look just as good on an iPhone as it does on an Android phone. And people should be able to register for events on mobile. This is just my, this is the bee in my bonnet, is I feel like if you have any kind of business offering through your website, people should be able to do that on their phone. It's kind of become an expectation. I think probably everybody under 30 now expects to be able to do this stuff on their phones. And if you can't make it easy for them to do it, they're not going to do it. So we need to start thinking about how registration can be offered on a mobile device. It's really, really important for you to think about social media as an advertising platform, because that's what they are essentially. These are networks driven by advertising. And so, but I don't want to discourage you, because the reality is that you can use small budgets to have big impacts on social media. And the main way to do that is to design ads for your intended audience. Think about who your audience is, what their interests are, what their age range is, what gender they are, what location they're at, and target your ads for them. I mentioned Facebook Pixel earlier, and again, this is why creating custom audiences can be so good for you, because you can advertise directly to the people that you want to receive your message, particularly on Facebook and Instagram. One of the things I recommend is that if you're going to promote or boost posts on Facebook and Instagram, you do it for the ones that are either performing well already, that are reaching a lot of people, or you boost events, because events will have an immediately measurable return on your investment. You can put $10 towards an event post and say, because I paid for a little bit of advertising, I got this many additional registrations, or this many people register for my event. So try to boost those posts where you can measure some kind of ROI. Also really recommend that you pay to boost the reach of video and streaming posts, because video and live posts are already going to get more organic reach than photos will, or text only posts. So you're putting your money to your best performing posts. And definitely, I would say advertise your grant applications whenever possible. You'll be surprised how many people might not have heard of your organization until you start advertising based on their interests or their location. We've had a lot of success with our grants by advertising them online and sharing them. The other thing I would recommend is, if you're looking for grants and you're looking for funding, or you're looking for funding to help with advertising, you can include social media advertising as a line item in your grant application, depending on the requirements of the grant. So, some grants will allow you to include a budget for social media, because funders are recognizing that it's so important to get the word out online now and on social media. It's really important to check your online reviews. 80% of people in the province have used online reviews to influence their decision making. So if you're not already monitoring your reviews on Facebook or monitoring what people are saying about you on Google, it's really important that you check those reviews. I'd also recommend that you encourage your participants, your users, your clients, your customers, whoever they are, to leave positive reviews on Facebook, on Google, because more positive reviews will actually directly lead to enhanced search engine optimization. Basically, more people are likely to find you on Google through searching if there are positive reviews associated with your organization. But bad reviews can have really serious impacts to your reputation. One bad review can really turn people away from you, especially if it's somewhere publicly visible like Facebook. So again, it's really important to encourage those positive reviews and to make sure you're checking often. I really believe in measuring your progress as you go and monitoring, so that you know how you're doing on social media and what you need to change in order to do better. And these are just a number of ways that you can measure and monitor. All of these are free. Facebook Insights, even if you don't go through the process of installing the pixel code on your website, Facebook offers insights, and there is so much that you can learn from just basic insights, like the number of organic versus paid reach, when people are engaging with your content, how many impressions your stuff has had. Your video analytics in particular can be very powerful. They can tell you how many people watched how many minutes of video, or when your viewers stopped watching your video. So Facebook Insights really, really important. Instagram, also great. Lots of good stats in Instagram Insights, and you can look at Instagram Insights directly from the smartphone app. Twitter Analytics, not quite as good, but there's still a lot of good information there. Hootsuite reports, again, if you're using Hootsuite, you can add up to 3 social profiles for free, and you can generate a monthly report on your social media there. Bitly is kind of an unconventional way to measure, but bit.ly is a link shortening site. It's browser based, so you throw in a link, it shortens it so you can use it on Twitter or Facebook. But what you can also do is track the number of clicks that your links get using Bitly. So if you want to know how many people clicked on your link, that's a great way to do it. And of course, Google Analytics is one of the best ways to measure and monitor your progress, not just on social media, but on your website as well. It's really important, I think, for our sector to start making video a priority and start making videos that fit your brand. Again, going back to that very first slide that I said, what was your brand identity? Start creating videos that represent that. And here are just a number of ideas I've included in this slide that maybe you can think about to create video. And I'm sure you can come up with even more creative and engaging videos on your own. And you don't have to make them very long. The ideal length of a video is under 2 minutes, because that's kind of the maximum attention span. Most people, we're almost 38 minutes into this live stream. Most people are not going to watch a 38-minute live stream, but they will watch a 2-minute video. And it's important that you add subtitles to your video, because most people are probably going to watch that video with the sound off. So it's really important that when you're creating that short little video that you're including subtitles to be inclusive and accessible for the hard of hearing, but also to make sure that you're capturing that audience that's watching your video silently. And here are just a few apps and browser-based editing tools that you can use. Most of these are either free or low cost. We've used Adobe Spark on a number of videos, as well as Animoto. Animoto is a YouTube partner, so you can create a video in Animoto and upload that to YouTube and use it to advertise on YouTube. Magisto is also a YouTube partner, so you can create YouTube advertisements using Magisto. And with Magisto, you don't have to do any work at all because your video will be edited by artificial intelligence for just $5 a month. It's crazy. Now, Snapchat, it's definitely a controversial network, but there's no doubt that's the #1 network with teenagers. So if you're working with teens in your programs, I think you need to start thinking about creative ways that you can build Snapchat into your marketing strategies. And just a few things that you can do to get started is encouraging your volunteers and program participants to send snaps to their friends and followers, or take screenshots of content that you create on your Snapchat account and reuse it on other social networks, because of course Snapchat is temporary. Another thing you could do is create custom filters for special events that you're doing. It doesn't take very much time, effort, or money to create a custom event filter. So if you're having an annual conference or a big fun event, you can have people use your custom filter to send out snaps, and then you can take a screenshot of that and reuse that somewhere else. The thing with Snapchat is I think we have to be very ingenious with how we use it, but also very careful, knowing that it's popular with teens, and whenever we work with youth, there are legal considerations that we have to think about. Now, as far as Facebook goes, here are some basic tips that will help you get the most out of Facebook, starting with building a community around your page. I mentioned earlier that Facebook really prefers meaningful engagement and connections between people, and having a community group as well as a page is a way to do that. I recommend at least 2 new posts per day. If you can make 2 original posts every day, that's great. Connect your Instagram account to Facebook. Use a cover photo to promote upcoming events. Cover photos are a great, inexpensive way to promote what's happening next with your organization. Updating your cover photo like every 2 weeks, every month, that's a great idea. Of course, if you don't have a social media dashboard to automate your posts, schedule them in advance using publishing tools, which is just inside the basic Facebook environment. And as I mentioned earlier, boosting your popular posts to increase reach and gain new followers, definitely a best practice. Facebook will tell you when a post is performing better than others. And I would always listen to Facebook and say, okay, this is performing better. Is a return on investment? If you can say yes, there's definitely a reason why I would share this with more people. Then why not throw $10 against that post and potentially increase its reach to a couple hundred or 1,000 more people? Definitely recommend changing your messaging settings and setting an updated response, an automated response, so that whenever anybody sends you a message to your inbox, they're getting a message immediately on Facebook Messenger saying, hey, thanks for the message. We'll get back to you as soon as we can. And then it's on you to respond to that person, ideally within an hour or less. Facebook now measures your response rate, and it will tell people whether you're likely to respond very quickly or very slowly. And you want to make sure that you have a high response rate so that people are more likely to engage you. Again, I mentioned using insights is really important to monitor what's working for you on Facebook and then model future content based on what your insights are telling you. Again, using Facebook Live like I'm doing now to get the most organic reach. Facebook is really pushing live streaming on their platform, and if you measure it, you will see the difference between a regular post or a post with a photo and then live video. There's no comparing the two. Again, if you like to create that instant customer service option, installing customer chat on your website, and then getting that additional user data to create custom audiences using Facebook Pixel. As for Instagram, here are a few tips that I would have to get the most out of Instagram, starting with making sure you're using a business account. Don't use your personal Instagram account, especially not for sharing stuff about your organization or your business. Use popular hashtags to increase your reach. Now, some people would ask, how many hashtags is the right amount of hashtags? And it sounds absurd, but Sprout Social did a study on hashtags earlier this year, and they found that the ideal number of hashtags to use on Instagram is 11 hashtags. So most people are probably not going to use 11 hashtags, but if you do, try to use relevant ones or popular ones to draw more people into your content. And add your location. Posts with a location get 79% more engagement than those without. Always, create your Instagram content within the app itself. Unless it's an advertisement, I recommend taking photos and videos in the app so you don't have to mess around with trying to resize your photos or resize your videos for Instagram's frame. Cross post to Facebook and Twitter. Post on the weekdays. In that same study of Instagram, Sprout found that more people are engaged throughout Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday than any other day of the week on Instagram. On Friday, Saturday, Sunday, people are out living their lives. But on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, that's when people are most engaged. Of course, you might find out that people are engaging with your content differently as long as you're measuring what Instagram analytics is telling you, and then you're adjusting your posting schedule as you need. And of course, Instagram is supposed to be this like inside look into a person's life. It's supposed to be engaging and personal and authentic. So even if you're doing this for your organization or your community recreation department or your park, make sure you're being as inviting, personal, and authentic as you can be. And if you're going to advertise, if you're going to create an advertisement on Instagram, make sure that your photo looks real. Try to trick people. Don't share something that looks like an advertisement, because if you're like me, I just ignore advertisements when I see them on Instagram because that's not why I'm there. Now, here are a few other more advanced tips to get the most out of Instagram. Use Boomerang and repost from Instagram apps. You can't repost or share somebody else's content on Instagram without using a repost from an Instagram app. And Boomerang videos, of course, are super fun and engaging. And so far, people still really like boomerangs, especially if you can make a really clever one. If you're not familiar with what a boomerang is, it's a very short looping video that just loops forever. And you get about 5 seconds, I think, or less to take your video. So it's really fun. You also need to think about how with Instagram, unlike Facebook, unlike Twitter, people are really only engaging with it on their phone. So you need to think small, but be bold. And some of the ways that you can do that is by thinking about what kind of fonts you're going to use. If you're adding text to your post, make sure you're not using many words, but make sure that those words are large and in charge, using eye-catching fonts and really creative color composition. If you know anything about color theory, use that to your advantage here. If you're going to make an ad on Instagram using video, you've got 15 seconds to do it. That's it. And I also really recommend you update your story as regularly as possible. If anything, updating your story and your grid is more important than making like frequent posts, because if you update your story, you're going to stay at the top of the app for all of your users. Whereas if you're posting frequently in the feed, people might get sick of you. As far as how many Instagram posts should you make in a week, if you're just getting started out, 1 is fine. When you're doing it more often, maybe try 2 or 3 times a week. But for the time being, when you're just building your following, try once a week. And again, sharing those story updates more often than feed updates. And that is all that I have for you today. I just want to say that, again, we're parks and recreation professionals. We're working with engaging people in our communities, and we want to share their success and share the impact of what we do. So when you're using social media, think not about what your programs and services are, but how you can inspire somebody on social media and add value to their experience. So go out there and have fun. And I really want to thank you, if you've stuck around this long, for watching this webinar presentation of this session. And I'm willing to take some questions now. We've got, looks like, about 10 minutes until we reach the end of the lunch hour. So if you've got questions, Ryan is here providing me with some tech support, so we can go ahead and answer some questions there in the chat if you have any. But if there are no questions, that's okay too. And I want to thank everyone again for taking the time out of their lunch hour to check out this live presentation of my conference session from the 2018 SPRA conference and annual general meeting. This video will be available on our YouTube channel early next week. It'll also be available here on Facebook for you to watch and share with your colleagues and peers. And of course, if you want more information about social media for recreation and parks, you can send me an email to my email address on this slide here, or give me a phone call. I'm also active on Twitter and Instagram at Sask Parks and Rec. Again, I want to thank everyone for listening. And oh, it looks like we have one question from Daniel. Okay. Are photo release forms event specific? No, I think it's best to have a generic photo release form that is really just consenting to having your photos used for marketing and promotions, rather than having them be specific to events. It's also a good idea to have people sign release forms if you're out in public taking photos at public events. And of course, whenever children are involved, you absolutely need a parent or guardian, legal guardian, to sign a release form. Are there any other questions from the chat? And as you can see there, Ryan has included our SPRA photo release form in the chat. So in the comments there, you can download that, take a look at it. And of course, SPRA encourages any of our members who would like to adapt our photo release form to their own purposes to go ahead and use that. Okay, so I think we're going to call it quits on this presentation. Again, thank you everyone for watching, and have a good rest of your day.